Treasurer, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Jane.
Can we start with One Nation's win overnight in the Farrer by-election? Labor didn't field a candidate in this election, but more broadly, how seriously is Labor taking the threat being posed by One Nation?
Well, first of all, this wasn't a by-election, it was a bloodbath for the coalition. And what it shows is that the coalition can't beat One Nation, they'll have to join them. There's no future coalition government, I think, without One Nation in it. Angus Taylor bet big on division and lost. It shows that the problem with the Liberal Party wasn't Susan Lee. After all, it's the Liberal Party itself. And I would be very surprised if the clock wasn't already ticking on Angus Taylor's leadership. Now, on the broader atmospherics, the broader politics of the Farrer by-election, this government doesn't lightly dismiss or deny the very real concerns that people have, which are encouraging them to consider political alternatives. And the budget on Tuesday night, it's not a political document. In fact, it's got a lot of political risk in it. It's got a lot of spending restraint, a lot of savings. It's fundamentally an economic strategy, not a political strategy. But it will take into consideration and respond to what I think are very real concerns that people have about our economy and our society.
Right, well, let's get into the budget. We'll turn to the risks in a moment, but the announcement today that you'll be investing another $2 billion in the kind of infrastructure around connecting new builds to water, power, sewerage. This is taking to a total of $4 billion that Labor's spent on this. So how many extra or new homes will this actually support?
So this is a $2 billion investment in the infrastructure which makes possible another 65,000 homes. It's all about the water and power and local road infrastructure which is necessary to get more projects over the line. So tens of thousands more homes because of this $2 billion investment in a budget which is really focused on housing. It's a budget which will be all about housing, building the homes that we need, and this $2 billion investment, which takes the total investment to $47 billion in housing under the life of this government, is all about more homes for more Australians in more parts of Australia.
Isn't funding like this, though, something that local councils should be taking care of, not the federal government?
Well, we're partnering with local councils and with state governments to build the homes that Australia desperately needs. So this is all about making sure that we can get more projects over the line. Often the thing that is preventing that is small-scale infrastructure, local roads, water, power infrastructure. By investing another $2 billion, we can build another 65,000 homes in an economy and in communities which desperately need them.
So that's the supply side. We're also expecting, obviously, housing, a big theme of the budget on Tuesday, taxation changes, specifically to negative gearing and capital gains tax discount. Are you going to grandfather existing investors from the proposed changes to negative gearing?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to preempt the specifics of any announcements that may or may not be in Tuesday night's budget. We've made it very clear for some time now. The status quo in the housing market and in the tax system is broken. It's not working. It is locking out too many Australians and we're not building enough homes. And so the challenges in the housing market begins with supply. That's what our investments are all about, but it doesn't end there. And so I think any responsible government like ours needs to take seriously the very genuine intergenerational concerns that people have and make the housing market fairer and make the tax system fairer as well. We've made it clear for some time that those are our priorities. Without preempting anything that may or may not be in Tuesday night's budget, I think people know and share our concerns that the status quo in housing and tax is unacceptable because it's unfair.
Would grandfathering arrangements, whether it's negative gearing or capital gains tax, sort of help shield Labor from accusations that it's breaking an election commitment by pursuing these changes?
Well, a couple of things about that. I mean, first of all, I'm obviously not going into the details of a policy that we haven't announced. We've made it clear on other occasions that obviously when any government is considering changes of this nature, obviously they work through the transitional arrangements and the transitional considerations. I think any responsible government going down that path would do that. Now, when it comes to the election, the comments and commitments that we made at the election reflected, I think, an almost singular focus on housing supply. That is still the main game. That's why we're investing another $2 billion in the budget on Tuesday night to build more homes. The challenge begins with supply, but it doesn't end there. The status quo in housing and in tax is unfair and unacceptable, And so if we can take more steps on that front on Tuesday night, we will. And if we've come to a different view to what we've expressed on other occasions, we'll explain why.
Tell me the thinking around this, because it was only 12 months ago that the Prime Minister on multiple occasions ruled out any changes to negative gearing. We'll obviously find out on Tuesday, but it looks like it's very much now on the table. What's changed in the last 12 months, in your opinion, to start pursuing tax changes like these? Well,
I mean, once again, the comments and commitments we made at the election to build more homes, to focus almost exclusively on supply, that it was our policy. And you'll see that advanced in the budget on Tuesday night with this extra $2 billion for 65,000 more homes. And so what we said at the election reflected that almost singular focus on building more homes. We need to also recognise, it's increasingly clear to us, that the problem in housing begins with supply, but it doesn't end there. And so if there are more responsible steps that we can take to make the housing market fairer, particularly for young people, then we will consider that, and you'll hear more about it on Tuesday night.
Can voters expect any new cost of living relief on Tuesday night beyond the measures announced and the tax changes that have already been legislated?
Well, people shouldn't expect big cash splashes in the budget.
It's a few $100s though in their pockets?
Well, it's a budget which is all about spending restraint and responsibility. There'll be cost of living relief in the budget. For example,
cost of living?
Well, for example, the almost $3 billion that the fuel tax cut is costing, which is taking some of the edge off this, the price people are paying for the war in the Middle East. Beyond that, this is a government which always tries to ease the cost of living where we can responsibly do that, but people shouldn't expect there to be big near-term cash splashes in the budget, because it's a really responsible budget. It's focused on resilience and reform. There will be cost of living help in the budget, and primarily that's about taking some of the edge off these cost of living pressures which people are facing, particularly at the Bowser.
New cost of living help, like would a few $100s in people's pockets help at the moment?
Well, I'm not going to preempt the budget on Tuesday night, except to say this government is cutting taxes already, cutting fuel tax. We've got an income tax cut coming in July, another one next July. We've got an instant tax deduction which will provide a bit more tax relief as well. And what that shows is this government is always looking for ways to responsibly help with the cost of living, but people should understand that that is within the constraints of an extremely responsible budget.
As you consider the whole tax mix, do you think that we tax assets too lightly and income too heavily? Are you seeking to shift that?
Well, I think there are challenges in our tax system. It's one of the reasons why, really ever since the reform roundtables that we hosted here in the second half of last year, we have flagged a willingness to consider some of these sorts of issues around tax reform. And that's because there is a sense in the tax system that it goes very easy on people who earn their income from assets, and it's a bit harder on people who earn their income from working. And so obviously we have been considering some of those sorts of issues. As I've said a couple of different ways now, we think the status quo in housing and in the tax system is unfair, and we think that it's unacceptable as a consequence of that, and so we have been considering ways to try and rebalance it.
Okay, and just a few shorter questions to finish, things that aren't in the budget. We're not expecting an electric vehicle road user charge. You mentioned the productivity roundtable. This was largely unanimous agreement that there was a lot of support for that. Where are we at? Has the government sort of chickened out on actually putting in place a road user charge?
No, we're still working with the states and territories on that. You're right to say that there won't be a new road user charge in the budget. I think people will understand there are good reasons in the transport sector right now to focus on fuel supply, on our fuel tax cut, the cut to the heavy vehicle road user charge. All of these things are about getting through these near-term pressures, particularly in the transport sector, because it's all about fuel, but some of that work will be ongoing.
And so when can we expect a road user charge to be in place in Australia?
Well, we haven't concluded our view on it. We haven't finished the work with the states and territories. I think everybody understands that this is the direction that governments are heading in, but it won't be in the budget on Tuesday night.
The gas tax campaign has been getting some traction in the community. The Prime Minister's ruled out any increase on gas taxes in this budget. Were you in favour of increasing taxes? Like, it must have been pretty tempting for a treasurer in search of more revenue.
I think there are good reasons to focus on these two-way supply arrangements with our Asian partners, our refining partners. Good reasons to prioritise that. And also, don't forget, we announced just a couple of days ago a very, very important policy about gas reservation. And that's all about prices, it's all about fuel security, it's all about industrial capacity. And so we are taking big and meaningful steps in the gas market. I have already reformed the PRRT. I know that people would like us to go further. There are strong views about this on all sides. I understand the arguments, but there are good reasons to prioritise fuel supply and gas reservation, and that's the government's focus.
What about once the war in Iran ends? Obviously, hopefully it's very, very soon. A cross-party Senate committee, including Labor members, has urged the Prime Minister to revisit this issue, specifically of taxing gas companies once the conflict's over. Do you think there'd be some value in that, even to the PRRT?
Yeah. Oh, look, it's not something that we've been contemplating because, as I said, there are good reasons to prioritise supply and reservation. That's taken a lot of work. You know, it's all hands on deck supplying as much fuel as we can for Australian motorists and for Australian industry. That's the priority. Gas reservation is a very, very important part of putting downward pressure on prices when it comes to gas, trying to decouple our gas prices from the roller coaster of international markets when it comes to gas. And so those are the things that we have been focused on, and I think for good reason.
And so no appetite in this term to revisit this issue?
Not something that we're proposing, you know, there will be, these views will be put to us from time to time. There's a lot of very strong views about it. I do understand the arguments that people are making. I did change the PRRT in our first term to get more revenue sooner. There will be a bit of an upgrade to PRRT revenue in the budget on Tuesday night. I understand people would like us to go further, but we're prioritising those other two areas, the supply arrangements and the gas reservation.
All right, Treasurer, you've got a busy few days. We look forward to reading the budget on Tuesday. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Jane.